Hi, this is Ike from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book to read for you. Today, book of The Great Mouth Detective from 1993. So let's get started. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of mice in England, reigned a queen in the year 1897. She had ruled her people for many long and happy years, and a celebration was to take place at her palace in honor of the 16th year of her reign. From all corners of the world, her loyal subjects flocked to the city of London to honor their beloved queen at the palace gates. The most courageous of them was Dr. Dodson. He had traveled all the way from Afghanistan on tough and dangerous seas, fighting ferocious winds for many, many months. He arrived at last on the eve of the celebration. Nearby, another special day was being celebrated. Little Olivia had just turned 10. Her father was a toy maker for his daughter's birthday. The clever toy maker had made a mechanical mouse. Though it was made of cardboard and paper, the mouse could nod its head and move its tail and little feet just like a real one. It's a mechanical mouse, explained to the wide-eyed Olivia as he sat it dancing. No sooner had he spoken those words than a huge shadow swept across the room. An angry bat with enormous wings crashed in through the window. Hurry, Olivia, hide in the closet, shout, shouted. Olivia quickly slipped into the closet and watched the horrific creature grab her father and fly away with him. Meanwhile, Doctor Dr. Dodson had taken a cab after a few detours through the narrow street. He called to the drivers, "Let me off, please," with his bag in one hand and an umbrella in the other. He continued his journey on foot. Somebody had told him that not too far from there he could rent a room. As Dawson crossed the street, he saw little Olivia. She was sitting on the curb of the sidewalk, weeping. "Why are you crying, little one?" asked Dawson. "They took my daddy away," she sobbed, "and the only one who can ever find him and bring him back, is Basil, the great mouse detective." "Basil?" said Dawson, surprised. "I was just told to go to his house to rent a room. Why don't we go there together?" After a short walk, they reached Basil's house. It stood high on a hill in a very nice neighborhood. The housekeeper opened the door. "Good morning, ma'am. My name is Dawson. I would like to rent a room, please. I'm afraid Mr. Basil isn't in yet, but he shouldn't be long. If you would like to wait, I'll make some tea," said the housekeeper. "Please come in." Once in the house, they headed for the living room. The tea was good, but they waited for Basil for a very long time. All of a sudden, a figure in a long red robe stood in the room. In no time, off came a mask, and who appeared but Basil? Little Olivia couldn't believe her eyes. To lead a successful investigation, explained the housekeeper, Basil must go undercover. Yesterday, he went out as a priest, and tomorrow, we'll have to go out as a bride. Tonight, I'm a crack shot, Basil said, and he fired the gun. It glared over at Dawson. Your name is Dawson, isn't that right? He asked. You love pudding, but you're not too keen on walking. You just came back from Afghanistan for the Queen University, and you are looking for a room to rent. You are eternally right. How did you guess all this? Asked Dawson, taking shock. Elementary, my dear Dawson. That's my job, replied Basil. With that method, do you think you could find the ugly bat that took my daddy? Asked Olivia. A bat? Questioned Basil. Describe him to me. He has big bulging eyes and a wooden leg. There's no doubt, whoever Olivia interrupted Basil, that's the bat in question, is Fidget. He sat down in his armchair and lit his pipe. Fidget is working for my archenemy, Ratigan. He continued. Ratigan believed he should be king, but he is only a rascal. We must find his hideout and rescue your daddy as soon as possible. Ratigan also lived in London, but in a hidden underground palace. He had gathered his subjects around his throne and was telling them his master plan. Everybody here knows who the Queen is, he said, holding up a picture of the Queen. I have decided to kidnap her. We need a king to rule the mice, not a queen, and that king is to be me. Ratigan struck his chest. Tomorrow at the celebration, we will make everyone believe she had chosen me as her successor. And how will you do that? Asked the subject. Ah, one must be very clever indeed, he hissed. We shouldn't, we should put someone in place. Hooray, shouted the crowd. Long live Ratigan. But Ratigan wanted more cheer, more hoorays. Furious, he grabbed the poor mouse out of the crowd and summoned with a little bell. The fat palace cat, who had a weakness for mice, eat this, Felicia, he ordered in one quick bite. Felicia followed the poor victim. Now you know who is the king here, Ratigan said, striking his chest once more. Ratigan went to the dungeon where he held prisoner. I want a mechanical mouse, roared the ugly rat. Do as I tell you, or else. Never, cried. I will never betray my beloved queen. We'll see about that, sneered Ratigan as he left to find Fidget the bat. Meanwhile, night had fallen on the city. Oliver and Dawson went still at Basil, wondering what to do. They had agreed that nothing could be done without first getting some evidence against Ratigan. Watch out, Olivia cried. Suddenly she had caught a glimpse of Fidget outside the window, but the bat had had not spotted her. He was looking in the window, and then he turned away and walked down the street. She told her friends, what a stroke of luck. Let's go outside and look for footprints, suggested Basil. Basil was right. Fidget had left many footprints on the sidewalk. We can't mistake Fidget footprints because his wooden leg, explained Basil. But rain started to fall and the footprints disappeared one by one. Look here, said Dawson, waving a cap in his hand. That must be Fidget's cap. He must likely dropped it as he walked, said Basil. Good work, Dawson. It's just a piece of evidence we needed. I think I'll make you my partner, my friend. Only a dog can chase the owner of this cap, said Basil. Olivia jumped with fear. You needn't to be scared, Olivia, said Basil. My friend Toby will help us find Fidget. His master is a colleague of mine, the famous Sherlock Holmes. When the three friends arrived at Toby's house, they slipped in through the air vent. Toby immediately smelt their presence. Hello, Basil. What can I do for you? He asked. Can you sniff this cat for us? Asked Basil. We need to find its owner, Fidget the bat. Toby sniffed the cat several times. Pew, it doesn't smell very good, does it? I don't think we'll have any difficulty finding finding Fidget, he exclaimed. Toby followed the scent through the streets, passing squares and crossroads. With the three friends riding on his back, they find he stopped in front of a toy shop. Do you see this toy shop? He asked, pointing. I am absolutely positive Fidget is in there. Toby was right. Fidget was in the store roaming through the toys. Ratigan had written a list of things needed to make a mechanical mouse, and Fidget was now stealing all the stripes, pulleys, screws, and caps that were necessary. The wicked bat was also stealing uniforms off toy soldiers, too small for human beings to wear, but a perfect fit for mice. Basil, Dawson, and Olivia waste no time. Toby opened a window, and three friends slipped inside the shop. Toby was too big to follow them. Good luck, he whispered to them before he left. But Fidget had very good ears. He overheard Toby and quickly hid in a row of toys. What on earth has he gone? Wondered Basil, aloud as they looked around the shop. Very strange indeed, whispered Dawson. But there is something even stranger. None of these toy soldiers had any clothes, Olivia answered with a scream. She had spotted Fidget behind some toys. Basil and Dawson was startled by her scream. They stopped dead in their tracks. Fidget grabbed Olivia and shoved her in a bag. Before anything could be done, the bat had escaped Olivia through a hole in the roof. Help, help, yelled Olivia from the bottom of the Fidget bag. Don't worry, Olivia, we'll rescue you, shouted back Basil. He dashed up a pile of wooden blocks in pursuit of Fidget. Dawson charged after him, but before either could reach the top of the whole pile tumbled down on top of them. Fidget took Olivia directly to Ratigan. The crew rat brought her down to the dungeon where her father was being held prisoner. Aren't they adorable? He hissed as father and daughter hugged. Ratigan, his voice, raising his voice to a roar, he threatened, "Your corner. If you don't do what I tell you to do, I'll have Felisa feast on your daughter. Now start working." Torn by Ratigan's threat, start to work on a mechanical mouse. Meanwhile, in the shop, in the great Basil had far from given up. As soon as they recovered from his fall, he picked up the list Fidget had dropped and carefully began to examine it. My dear Dawson, everything one needs to know is on this list, explained Basil, but not only for those who knows how to see. With a careful examination, I can tell you where it came from, where it been, and who held it. We'll soon know where Ratigan is hiding. Ratigan had no trust in, and decided to keep Olivia as hostage. Fidget had put Olivia in the bottle. If this little crybaby escapes, I'll have Felicia feast on you instead. But, Your Majesty, what have I done? Whimpered Fidget. You lost the list, didn't you? You fool, I think I'll have you punished right away. With great pleasure, Ratigan shook his little bell to call Felicia. Felicia came running ed- uh, to please her master. At sight of Fidget, the greedy cat licked her chops. She caught hold of the frightened bat by his wooden leg with a great big clunk. But just as she was about to swallow him whole, Ratigan ordered, "Put him down, Felicia. We'll let him go for the time being. Who knows, he might still be some use to us." Felicia rejected. Let her prey go with a disappointed groan. The night that night, disguised as a captain and his first mate, Basil and Dawson went to one of the cellar bars on the harbor. "Let's sit down, Dawson," whispered Basil. "If Ratigan lived nearby, as we suspect, someone here will no doubt mention him. Let's listen carefully." The sailor was singing a very catchy tune, and Dawson, a little tipsy, went to join them. Singing along, he jumped up on the piano. In no time, fight broke out in the bar room. Hats, shoes, and chairs, table, even the piano was flying across the room. What a mess. But Basil on Dawson slipped behind the curtains and called out to Dawson to follow him. "Something tells me that Fidget escaped through here," he said, lifting a trap door. "Soon we'll catch up with him." Basil and Dawson lowered themselves into the opening, then followed a flight of stairs down the city sewer. The old walls of the port reeked a horrible smell, and they could not see anything in the pitch dark. "Be careful," warned Dawson. "It's very slippery." "Quiet," whispered Basil. "Over there. Did you see Fidget standing in that doorway?" Basil pointed to a ray of light. "How strange. It looked as if Fidget wanted us to see him." Slowly they creeped toward the door. In their excitement, Basil and Dawson threw cautions to the wind. They opened the door and saw Olivia trapped in the bottle. Before they could free her, they were surrounded by Ratigan guards. "Rats," explained Basil. "It's a trap. What a fool I am. I should have guessed this was a trap." "You are right, my dear Basil," sneered Ratigan, and guard bound Basil and Dawson with ropes. "You are indeed a fool. Every genius makes mistakes. I, for instance, expected you at 8:30, and it's only 20 past. But you arrived just in time to celebrate a marvelous little invention of which I am very proud. He continued with a wicked smile. Be a good sport, my dear friend, said Ratigan, winding his hands with pleasure. Wouldn't you like to know how this mousetrap works? It's a true work of art. Oh, but you don't look too comfortable, do you? It's a little tight. I am so sorry. Don't be too upset. Your worries will soon be over. With that, Ratigan broke into hideous laugh. With an ugly sneer on his face, Ratigan explained the gadgets on the two friends. I first set the needle on the wrecker, and bingo, the whole mechanics begin. The record player arm tug at the thread as the record player plays. The thread pulls over this glass and let this marble loose. The marble rolls down the miniature side and snaps. The spring is released, cutting off your head. Brilliant. And just to be on the safe side, he continued, this crossbow will shoot you as the trap is released. The axe will chop you in half, and the anvil will crush you to pieces. And do you see this gun? Ratigan asked with a smile. In case you hadn't noticed, dear friend, it's also pointing at you. Ha ha ha. Ratigan burst out laughing and started to play the record. With an evil glint in his eyes, he added, by the way, Basil, do you recognize this tune? It's the Executioner. Tingle, enjoy. While Basil and Dawson was in terrible predicament, Queen received an enormous gift from Ratigan. Oh my, to his friend, as she opened. A full-size replica of me. What a thoughtful gift. This Ratigan is a true gentleman. To the Queen's surprise, the statue started to move. King and queens had small and large statues of themselves, but never had heard of a moving statue. How delightful, said the Queen as she moved closer to examine it. She did not see Ratigan in the room operating the statue. Get a hold of her, shouted Ratigan at the Queen. Two guards. The Queen couldn't believe her eyes. What, my own soldiers? Stop, she yelled in vain. Little did she know that there was not her soldiers, but Ratigan accomplishments, just with costume Fidget had stolen from the toy store. Wasn't it brilliant idea to steal the uniform, Fidget? Asked the delighted Ratigan. But I was the only one to carry out your idea, said Fidget. Shut up, you bat, sneered Ratigan. Without another word, Fidget picked up the Queen and carried her away like a bag of potatoes. Back at Ratigan's secret chamber, Basil had an idea. Our only chance is to release the spring before this dreadful music comes to an end. Let me think, Dawson, when I tell you, kick as hard as you can. Now, he shouted to Dawson, and they both started kicking. A few kicks, the trap released the spring just in time for the marble to keep it from snapping off their heads. The axe fell right between them, cutting them free, before the crossbow and gun could shoot them, or the animal crushing them. The two friends had freed. Basil and Dawson rushed to free Olivia from the inside bottle. They found Toby, who had tracked them down, and rode on his back to the Queen palace as quickly as they could. At the palace, Fidget was about to throw Queen into Felicia's hungry mouth, when with a quick jump, Basil caught hold of the Queen, while Toby roared, chasing a terrified Felicia out of the palace. The Queen was saved. Meanwhile, in the palace meeting hall, the fake Queen was addressing her people. My lord subject, after 60 years of ruin, I am old enough to be a grandmother. Instead, I have found my true love and will remarried. Ratigan will soon become my husband as a wedding gift. I wish him to reign in my palace. The crowd could not see behind the stage, forced by Ratigan to operate the mechanical mouse. Ratigan entered the stage in a royal robe. He smiled at the crowd, waiting for their applause, but they had recognized him and shrieked back in terror. They knew that chosen husbands of their queen would not address them kindly. I, Ratigan the First, he shouted, King of the Mice, hereby declare that a heavy tax should be paid by all, just as the elderly, the infirm, and especially little children. Just as Ratigan finished his cruel speech, Basil, Dawson, and Olivia ran out onto the stage. Listen, everybody, Basil shouted. Ratigan is an imposter. With one swift kick from Basil, the mechanical mouse fell to pieces. The crowd was furious. This fat rat is a liar. Let's get him. Everyone rushed to the stage, but Ratigan was quick as lightning. He swooped down, grabbed hold of little Olivia, and escaped before anyone could catch him. Ratigan had thought of everything. Outside the palace gate, a small was waiting for him in case something went wrong. He pushed Olivia into, and soon they were flying up toward the cloud. He fooled us, sighed Dawson, nodded sadly in agreement. But Basil was already hard at work, working. Wait, hard at work, working building second out of the wooden planks. Chosen balloons and the Queen flag. In no time, they were flying up in the sky in pursuit of Ratigan. With the next gust of wind, they caught up with Ratigan. There is only one solution. I had got to jump into there, said Basil. But that's impossible, cried. He's right, you can't possibly do that, second Dalton. But Basil had already jumped. He landed right next to Ratigan, who was so surprised that he let go of the steering wheel. Watch out, the clock tower, shouted Dawson. But it was too late. They crashed into the clock tower. Ratigan let go of Olivia and she fell into the clockworks. Don't worry, Olivia, shouted Basil. After her, I'm coming. Grabbing hold of a rope, Basil swung to where Olivia had fallen. He tied the rope around her, and with a strong push, he swung her to her father, and little Olivia was finally safe in her father's arms. But Basil's trouble was not yet over. Ratigan was furious. He threw himself at Basil with the force of a wild tiger. Basil jumped to the side and shook his enemy overhead. Ratigan turned around and sneered, "You detective, wait until I get my hand on you." But Basil had already thought up a plan to trick Ratigan. He moved back on the clock, big hand, hoping Ratigan would follow him there. Suddenly the clock struck the hour. Dong dong dong. The whole tower shook with the sound. Basil had held on tight to the clock hand, but just as he was expecting, Ratigan was taken by surprise. The ugly rat lost his balance and catapulted off the clock hand onto the road. Basil leaped off the tower into and joined his friends. "How can I ever thank you enough?" Queen said with the four friends returned into the palace. "You saved my country, and you saved me from the most horrible and cruel rat. Thank you." But Dawson wanted to thank. But Basil wanted to thank Dawson for helping. "My dear Dawson," he said with a smile, "without your help, I wouldn't have been able to save the kingdom of mice from the scoundrel Ratigan." But that wasn't all Basil had to say. "How would you like to become my associate, Dawson?" he asked, holding out his hand. "I was hoping you would ask me," Dawson replied, and with a strong handshake, the world's most famous detective team was formed. Basil, the great mouse detective, and Dr. Dawson. So that was the Great Mouse Detective for 1993. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Have a good every day with another video coming out real soon.